you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego, and welcome back to the Livin the Dream podcast, where we kickstart your week off with the right mindset to conquer your goals and live your own dream life. And if today you're looking for a little bit more empathy, then this episode probably isn't the best for you. But if you're looking for that little kick in the butt, then continue on, my friend, and I'll let you in on a little conversation that I had with myself today. Sometimes we just need a little bit of kick in the rear end to get our things in line. And I know myself, I'm a coach at heart because my whole life I've given myself these little, sometimes not so little, mental pep talks. And I don't know who else needs to hear this today, but I needed to give myself a little motivation mindset Monday pep talk. And it got me all up in my head thinking about how I've seen so many situations in life, both from my own personal experiences and also what I've observed from other people, my clients, family, friends, and how they have also probably needed to hear the same thing that I told myself today. And that is to just do the thing. Just do the thing. Do you have dishes that you're bringing to the kitchen after you've eaten them? Are you going to let them soak, or can you just rinse them off and put them in the dishwasher, or can you just wash them? Do the thing. Is there laundry that needs to be folded? Or are you going to instead procrastinate and scroll on your phone instead of that these clothes are in the dryer needing to be folded? Just do the thing. Do you need to make that important phone call? Do you need to have that hard talk? Or are you just thinking about it and catastrophizing and putting it off and putting it off? Just do the thing. When you get home from a vacation, yeah, you're tired. Yeah, it's been a long travel day. Do you need to unpack that suitcase when you get home? Or do you need to let it sit there for the next 4 or 5 days, just being in your mind that it needs to be done? Taking up that internal hardware in your mind that, I know it needs to be done, but I'll do it later. Just do the thing. Do you need to try something new? Do you need to change something old? Do you need to do the work and rehab an injury? Are you waiting for the right equipment or the right clothing to work out? Just do the thing. In our household, we actually have a song because we have this discussion so often. Should we clean the house or should we do it later? Should we go to the store or do it later? That light came on in your car. You need to put some air in your tires. Do you need to fix the car? Do you need to start the nighttime routine, or should we watch one more show on Netflix? We sing, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now, because just do the thing now. You know in your head there is one right answer. You know what it is. If the decision is to do this or to do that, what's the right answer? Just do the thing. It seems as if doing the easy thing or putting off doing the hard things, it seems like that's hardwired into our DNA. We have no energy to do this or to do that. I'm just so tired. And I'm not really talking about the one-offs here. Like, yeah, some days you are just too exhausted. Some days you've gotten your ass kicked and you just need a win. Some days you just don't feel like it. I really get it. I do. I have those days all the time. But you know what the problem with just not feeling it? You know what that problem is? It's a slow acting poison. It slowly picks away at your self-confidence and your self-efficacy. And the more just not feeling it days that you have, the more easy it is to take it and make it an excuse every single time. A day here and a day there where, you know what, we're just over it. We're over it. That happens. I've been there. You've been there. Everyone has been in that situation, probably more than we want. But just know, the same way that if you're on a freshly snowed in mountain And the same way that the ski tracks, when you go down that mountain, it gets compacted down and down. And the more skiers that take that route, the easier it is to automatically take that route. That's the same way that your brain works. That neurological pathway of just not feeling it, that gets reinforced. And your actions become your traits. And your traits become your identity. And I also know for a fact that you have something in your brain that it gets strengthened the more that you force yourself to do hard things. It bolsters discipline. Something in your brain that says if you tell yourself that you're going to do something, you know you're going to follow through with it because you have shown yourself that you will do what you said you're going to do. And the more just not feeling it days, I'm just not feeling it. The more just not feeling it days that you have, the more that that pathway gets reinforced. What you continually do will be strengthened, and that will experience growth, whether it's growth in the way that you want it to, or it's growth reinforcing this bad behavior of putting things off. One time I procrastinated on making a to-do list. Not only was I not doing the things that I needed to do on the to-do list, I was putting off the easiest part, and that was making the to-do list. I told myself, if you're finding excuses as to not do the simple little things, then that means you're most likely burned out. You're burning yourself out. You need to start minimizing the catabolic things that you're doing in life, the things that break down, things that cause stress, both bad stresses and good stressors. Anything that breaks you down is catabolic, even if the goal is to then rebuild. So you need to minimize the things that break you down. If you're at this point where you're just putting off the most easiest things, if you're just making every excuse in the world not to do things, if you're constantly leaving dishes in the sink for days, if you're putting off folding that laundry, if your suitcase has not been unpacked for a week now, like you need to minimize the things that are breaking you down because apparently you're overdoing it. Things like exercise, that is something that breaks you down. That's a positive stressor, but maybe you're going too hard. Social media, that breaks down your mental fortitude. TV, cold plunges. Cold plunges are a positive stressor, but those are also stressors. Things like basketball, things like putting too many things on your plate, saying yes to all those little extra things that you might not really have that extra time for. Stressing about money or stressing about certain relationships or something that's gone wrong in a relationship. Even things like saunas, these can be stressors if you go too hard. And sometimes even just your thought process around the thing could make it a good stressor or a bad stressor. If I do a sauna for 45 minutes at the highest temperature, that's different than if I go into a moderate temperature sauna for a very small amount of time, just for me to find quiet and peace and work on being still for a little bit. So you could see how overdoing something that could also be relaxing could be a stressor that you need to minimize in your life. But I tell myself in those moments where I'm feeling burnt out and I'm putting things off and I'm not doing the easy things, I tell myself in those moments that I need to minimize those breakdown things and maximize the restorative, the rebuilding stuff in my life, the sleep, the nutrition, the light movement out in nature, walks on the beach or hikes, the meditation. Turn up the meditation and maybe dial back some of the things that you're stressing out about or that you're overdoing. Include breath work into your day. Find little moments in your day to get yourself down into a parasympathetic state. So if you find yourself all amped up, maybe you just had a 15-minute commute to work that was super stressful. Before you get out of your car, stop the car, stop everything, take some deep breaths, and start to prioritize those rebuilding, restorative things in your life. Listening to music that actually relaxes you, that makes you feel good. Maybe not hardcore rock or EDM or all this loud music type stuff, things that fill my cup, that re-energize me. That's the things that I need to start putting into my day and prioritizing if I'm at this place where even the easy stuff I'm just putting off. The science of action. Procrastination isn't just a habit. It's a complex interplay of psychological factors and neurological processes. Our brains are wired to seek immediate gratification. Our brains are wired to avoid discomfort, leading us to put off tasks that require any type of effort. However, research in neuroscience and psychology has shed some light on the mechanisms behind procrastinations and its consequences. Studies have shown that procrastination is associated with a decrease in your well-being, an obvious increase in your stress levels, and of course, a reduction in your productivity. When we procrastinate, we experience a temporary relief from anxiety. We're putting something off, but this relief is short-lived and often followed by guilt and regret, which compounds and makes it worse than before. Moreover, procrastination reinforces negative behavior patterns, making it harder and harder to break this cycle in the future. Again, taking that ski path and just making it so ingrained that it's almost impossible not to take this path. On the other hand, taking immediate action. Just do it now. Just do the thing. Taking immediate action has numerous benefits for our mental health and our overall well-being. When we complete tasks promptly, we experience a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, which boosts our self-confidence and our motivation. Momentum builds on momentum. Additionally, taking action strengthens the neural pathways associated with discipline and self-control, making it easier to tackle future challenges. The psychology of action. If we can shift our focus to the psychology of action, what separates the high achievers from the chronic procrastinators? The answer lies in our mindset and in our beliefs. You see, successful individuals have mastered the art of self-regulation and self-discipline. They understand that by taking action, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not really the first, second, or even 10th thing that we want to do right now, taking action is the key to achieving your goals. By reframing their mindset and adopting a growth-oriented perspective, these type of people are able to overcome procrastination and stay focused on what truly matters. Here are some strategies for taking action. It's time to roll up your sleeves and it's time to get down to business. How can you overcome procrastination and start taking action today? Here are a few science-backed strategies to help you get started. The first thing is the biggest thing. Break it down. Chunking big, large, audacious tasks into much smaller, more manageable steps can make them less intimidating and easier to start, easier to tackle. You need to set specific goals. By setting clear, achievable goals, you'll create this roadmap for success. It will help guide you like a GPS to stay motivated along the way. You must practice mindfulness. Tuning into your thoughts and your emotions can help you identify the root cause of procrastination and develop strategies to overcome them. Why are you procrastinating? Why don't you want to do this task? What is it that you're feeling? Actually put a name to that emotion and be mindful of what exactly is going on inside of your thoughts and how you're feeling. And lastly, embrace consistency. It's not about doing one thing for hours and hours and hours just one day. It's about chipping away, being consistent. Consistent action is the key to building momentum and achieving long-term success. We talk about it all the time here. By committing to small, actionable steps each day, you're going to create positive habits to support your goals. So the dishes, maybe I'm going to wash just one dish. I'm just going to wash one dish. The rest of them I'm going to put in the other side and I'm going to let them soak. Well, once you got your hands wet, once you got the soap going, once you got the sponge in your hand, It's probably going to turn from one dish into one dish plus some silverware. And then eventually it'll turn into all the little dishes, and maybe you just leave the big pan. And eventually you're going to be like, you know what? I'm already here. It's going to take me 4 seconds to do this. Let me just do it now. That way I don't have to worry about it later. That way I don't have to use this mental space in my head to stress about, I know the dishes are in the sink. When am I going to get to those? Blah, blah, blah. They're going to pile up. It's just do the thing. Do it now. The neuroscience of procrastination. Let's start by unraveling the mystery of procrastination. Did you know that procrastination isn't just a bad habit? It's actually rooted in our brain's evolutionary wiring. Our brains are hardwired to seek pleasure and to avoid pain. Look at your lifestyle right now. How many times out of your day, if you look at this spectrum, you have pleasure on one side, and on the other side of the spectrum, the exact opposite of pleasure is pain. And throughout your day, you could even keep track on a piece of paper how many times you choose to go a little bit more towards the pain route or a little bit more towards the pleasure route. When you decide to exercise, that's going towards the pain route. You know that creating this positive stress in your body is going to make your body rebound and adapt and become stronger and more resilient. You know that when you go towards the pleasure side and you decide, you know what, I'm not going to work out. I'm going to go to the bar and drink some beers and watch the game with the friends. That's taking you away from your goals. That is a negative stress that will compound and make you less productive the next day. It will make you less energetic. It will compound into a negative feedback loop. So how often during your day do you go towards the pleasure side of that spectrum or the pain side of that spectrum? Our brains seem to be wired to want to go towards that pleasure side. It means we're naturally inclined to put off tasks that require effort and discomfort. But here's where it gets really interesting. Recent studies in neuroscience have uncovered the neural pathways responsible for procrastination. When we procrastinate, our bodies release neurotransmitters like dopamine, which provide temporary relief from anxiety and stress. What? A short-term relief. However, this temporary relief comes at a cost. Increased stress levels, decreased productivity, and a vicious cycle of procrastination. While procrastination may be ingrained in our biology, it is not inevitable. By understanding the underlying causes of procrastination and implementing effective strategies, we can overcome this tendency and become more proactive in our everyday lives. So take that task, break it down into the smallest piece, and then take one step closer to where you need to go to do the thing. Practice mindfulness and self-awareness. Tune into your thoughts and emotions and identify the underlying reasons for procrastination. Is it fear? Is it failure? Is it perfectionism? I need to have this perfect before I start. Once we understand the root causes, we can then challenge negative beliefs and replace them with more empowering narratives. If I have to be perfect, why do I have to be perfect? Was that something in my past? Okay, well, I know nothing is perfect the first time it happens. So let's chip away and let's make a rough draft. Let's make that rough draft as good as I can and then go back and figure it out. Chip away, make little tiny chips through this big, big task, and eventually things become more manageable. Things become clearer. Consistency is the key to breaking the cycle of procrastination and achieving your long-term success. Commit to small, actionable steps each day that build momentum, create positive habits that support your goal, whether it's writing a page a day, exercising for just 20 minutes, or practicing a new skill for 10 minutes a day. Consistent action compounds over time and leads to significant results. Consistency helps us overcome resistance and inertia by making action a natural part of our daily routine. This reminds me of a TV show that I watched, The Physical 100, and it was this physical event that this person had to do in order to move on to the next level or whatever it was. And it was this huge wheel, but it had flat sides. So it was like a hexagon, or maybe it had 8 sides or whatever it was, but it was giant. And the person stood right underneath it, and their goal was to roll it to the other side of this room. And in order for them to roll it, the very first couple of pushes, it was like they couldn't even move this thing barely an inch, and they got it rocking. Eventually, it started rocking a little bit more, and it started rocking a little bit more. And once they were able to get it past this first edge, they were able to use the momentum and the weight of the wheel to then get to the next level and to the next. And it started to roll faster and faster and faster. As the person fatigued, the wheel stopped and it got flat again. And what happened was they had to work twice as hard to get this thing moving back and rocking it and rocking and rocking it. And I feel like it's such a good metaphor for these hard tasks in our lives. When we go from sitting on the couch to whatever our big project is that we need to have done, that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to overcome the resistance and the inertia needed to get this momentum going. But once you get it going, once you rock it back and forth a couple of times, maybe that is your trial and error of figuring out what works and what doesn't work, and you get that first little lip to go over, and then you start to build on that momentum, the wheel becomes an object that almost moves itself, and it gathers this force. That is exactly what we're talking about here. When we prioritize consistency, we shift our focus from the short-term gains to the long-term progress, and we stay motivated and resilient, and we push through, and we keep that momentum. Of course, taking action is important, but so is finding balance in our lives. And I've heard an expert say balance isn't really the best word. It's the best word, it would be harmony, finding harmony in our lives. We can't just go full throttle all the time, which is something that I have been accused of many, many times. It's like, yeah, sure, you can say just do the thing because you're this highly motivated person. You're this person that's always go, go, go. And in my defense, I have these moments where I don't want to do things. And yes, I am someone that probably lives on the line of maybe going a little bit too much, too often, too far. But I love living on that side of the line rather than opposed to the opposite. What would the opposite be? I feel like this momentum that I builds on itself. And a lot of the things that I do that would require a person that doesn't live the lifestyle that I do, it would require that person a lot more energy than it takes me because I stay in motion. I keep that momentum. And I've built up the self-discipline that when I say I'm going to do something, I just do it. I know the right thing to do. And when I come to this decision, this why in the road, should I do the right thing or should I procrastinate and just do the easier thing? I know that every time I'm going to choose to do the hard thing, do the thing that needs to be done because that's how I've programmed my brain to do. So it's almost like it takes no mental energy for me to decide. Whereas the other person that doesn't have this practice, they'll sit there for a second and they'll be like, maybe it's just a fraction of a second in their head, but that takes energy. And then when you decide to do the easier thing, you're telling yourself that that's the person that you are. So yes, it's important that we find balance and harmony. We can't go full throttle all the time. We do need to prioritize rest and recovery to avoid burnout and to maintain our well-being. But I think that it's super important that you stay true to what you're going to do. Balancing stress and rest is important. While taking action is important, it's equally crucial to balance out your activity with your rebuilding, the things that fill your cup. Chronic stress and burnout can undermine our efforts in so many ways. It can lead to physical and mental exhaustion. Therefore, it's essential to prioritize self-care and incorporate restorative activities into your daily lives. How can we get ourselves to do the things that we need to do and still find harmony in our lives? How can we get ourselves to do the things that we know we need to do and we know we need to get done? Well, we tend to think it's all about acting from the inside out. We think that there's going to be a feeling of motivation or inspiration that comes when it's time to do the task. Okay, well, when it's time, when I feel motivated and when I feel the inspiration, that's when I'm going to do the task. When in fact, we need to be acting from the outside in. This is where the saying momentum creates momentum and action elicits further and accelerated action. That's where these things come from. And I hear people saying it all the time. They want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing. They want to wait for the right time when they are motivated to do the thing. Some people wait a really long time, and that feeling still may never come. There is a shortcut to this, and the shortcut is just starting. Pick the smallest thing that you can do, the thing you know that needs to get done. What is the easiest, smallest thing to do? And just do that now. Do it now. It's important to understand that most of us frequently have a case of the I don't want us. I don't want us. This is normal. It's how we're hardwired as efficient energy-saving machines. Motivation rarely comes from this spark of desire. It comes from the outside to the inside. Action, discipline. Take action in order to feel more motivated. It will compound on itself. It will be hard at first. You don't want to do it. Your body doesn't want to do it. Your mind, your brain. Take action in order to feel more motivated. It will compound on itself. The way that I have seen this happen most effectively is when someone finds a bigger why that they can anchor themselves to, a reason that is big enough and deep enough that the person can refer to over and over to guide them like a North Star. Once they have that why, they must then start to forge a new identity. You must identify as the new person who is like the person who you ultimately want to become. Yes, they have a saying, fake it until you make it, or I like, be it until you see it. Identify as the person who is like the person who you ultimately want to become. You are now the person who does 5 minutes of exercise first thing in the morning, no matter what. You are that person. You are now the person who only has one alcoholic drink a week, no matter what. You're the person who no longer eats processed sugar. You must grow and you must transform into someone new in order to change the person that you currently are. The person that you currently are does the things that you have done over the past 5 years. The actions, the choices, the lifestyle behaviors, all of that is why you are who you are today. Your environment. Things need to change in order for you to change. How do you know if you're someone who thinks from the inside out instead of acting from the outside in? There are 4 signs that you're stuck behaviorally in this inside out mode. The first sign is that you overcope. Overcoping. This is where we will engage in excessive behaviors as a distraction, where we will do something else to cope with the fact that we don't want to do the thing. We know we need to do it, but we're engaging in excessive behaviors as a distraction in order not to do it. Example would be we are stressed and overwhelmed from work, and instead of actually taking a break from work, a pause, finding a way to recharge, we distract ourselves with fuller schedules, more things on the to-do list, signing up for more extracurriculars, so that we just don't have to address the issue of finding harmony in our lives. Another example might be that if you want to make a nutritional change in your diet, instead of making changes like taking the time to meal prep, not bringing processed food into your house, not being distracted while you're eating in front of screens, or maybe tracking your protein intake, the stuff that takes time and the stuff that takes action. Instead, you spend your days doing tons and tons of research. You listen to this expert on the keto diet, on the low carb diet, on the perfect diet. You try to learn about the best foods to eat and the foods that you should avoid. You probably get conflicted information because, well, that's the internet. And you get so frustrated that you throw your hands up, and after all that time is wasted, you decide it's easier just to go get some Dairy Queen chicken strips. It's delaying taking action in the name of perfection, or finding the best action, or making sure that you are perfectly ready. Just do the thing. Do it now. Do it now. Take action. One small step in the direction towards your bigger why. Overcoping can compound our problems with more and more problems. Overcoping to an already busy schedule while already overworked, that will be a disaster result in the end. Wasting time trying to be 100% ready to start instead of just starting and figuring it out along the way, you'll never get that time back. So the first sign is that you overcope. The second sign is that you use avoidance. This is our classic I don't wanna mindset. I don't wanna do something, so I just don't do it. If we're stressing out about work, we procrastinate and don't do that work. If we're worried about a certain relationship, well, we avoid confrontation with that person. We avoid the difficult conversation. If you are suffering from avoidance, you have to break the task down into smaller pieces. Break it down to be able to get through the stuckness. It's the classic writer's block moment. Commit to just 5 minutes of writing. That's your only job. Sit down with a piece of paper and just write for 5 minutes. It doesn't even have to be good. Start small. Momentum builds on momentum. The second sign is avoidance. The third sign is withdrawal. The difference between avoidance and withdrawal is that withdrawal is more about your connection with other people. With withdrawal, you find that sometimes you are hiding. You're avoiding telling people that you're struggling. You'll put on a fake face when you really could benefit from some help. We pull away from our social support system. And this is a huge problem because it then provides this negative feedback loop. The more you pull away, the less support that you receive, the more isolated you feel and become, and it loops and loops from there. Avoidance is more about a task, and withdrawal is more about relationships and people. If you find yourself in withdrawal, you must break the silence. Say it out loud. Say it out loud to someone that you trust. If you don't trust anyone, write it down in a journal and read it aloud to yourself. There are also online therapist companies like BetterHelp, betterhelp.com, that you can be anonymous if you want to, and you can find help from a professional that you match with, which is, I think, is so cool that we have the ability to do that now. If you're feeling stressed about work, just talk with someone about that stress, someone whom you trust. Just saying it out loud. You re-engage with that social support. And when you hear yourself say it, you verbalize and put words to your emotions. You have a support system who hears you and is with you. Now, I find it helpful if before you start unloading on someone with your problems, you ask them if they have space for it first. Hey, do you have space for me to talk to you about something kind of heavy right now? And sometimes you just want to be helped. Sometimes you just want to be heard. Sometimes you just want to be hugged. Helped, heard, or hugged. Letting the person know if they should help you or hear you or be there to hug you, that is so important before you just start vomiting and venting all over someone without them being ready for it. So the third sign is withdrawal, and the fourth sign is called unintentionality. This means that you're acting without thinking. You have essentially numbed out. You're numbed out. We have unplugged our brains. A classic example is eating in ways that we would probably prefer not to. I just looked down and the bag of chips was gone, probably because I was numbing myself out in front of a screen. And that's what I wanted. I wanted this time to just numb out. It's that mindfulness. Numbing really does encompass what unintentionality means. Getting stuck scrolling through social media, doom scrolling through your news apps, watching TV because it makes you feel better, because it feels easier to cope with these things that you should be dealing with in your life, whatever needs to be done, instead just putting it off and numbing yourself with something else to cope with that feeling. We want to go to the gym. We want to address the work task, and yet we don't want to. So we find ourselves unplugging, and usually we use screens or something of that nature to numb out. This is something that I constantly battle with in my household. Like when I feel myself slipping with my discipline, watching TV like sports or Game of Thrones or whatever the newest show is on whatever streaming service, the argument that I have in my head would be, hey, I worked hard all day long. I deserve this chance to relax. And yes, I agree that having harmony in life is super important. Being able to recharge after a long day's work is so important. But is this a short-term numbing out avoidance tool that will compound negative with negative the days after? Or is this actually you recharging and finding balance? I bet if you truly asked yourself that, a lot of the things that you think you're recharging with are actually numbing out. But next time you say, I just want to relax after a hard day, ask yourself this: am I doing too much in my life? Or am I not doing enough of what fills me up? I find personally the days where I'm leading clinics with members and I'm dropping podcast episodes and I'm helping community learn about the practice of health and wellness, I find on those days my energy is sky high. On the days where I feel like I'm making an impact and I feel like I'm chasing my passion, I feel the energy building. But the days where it feels like it's Groundhog's Day, where it feels like I'm not doing very much meaningful work, where I'm just, the same thing, the same people, the same actions, those are the days that I feel the most run down. And most likely the days that I use other substances to cope, things like junk food or alcohol or lazy screen time, things of that nature. Most of the time that we feel tired, it's not because we've done too much. It's because we've done too little of what actually makes us come alive. Most of the time we feel tired, it's not because we've done too much. It's because we've done too little of what makes us come alive. A great strategy for unintentionality is to set some limits. Set some limits for yourself. Create routines during those times where you know that you always check out and numb out. Set alarms to remind you. Here's a real world example for me. When I'm on top of my game, my nighttime routine starts 90 minutes before bed. I've talked about this a little bit. I turn the lights low. I jump in the shower to get hot, which in turn cools my body temperature to help me prepare for sleep. I drink a warm magnesium tea. I journal about my next day and I schedule and time block the upcoming day. And then I do a yin yoga and a yoga nidra meditation. This is the perfect combination that I have chosen to do to help me get the best sleep. When I'm numbing out, instead, I end up watching a sports game or a show that tends to push my nighttime routine back. And then it's like 30 minutes before bedtime. So what do? I end up skipping the yin yoga. I do the bare minimum for my journal. I end up probably snacking a little bit more than I want to right before bed. All because I gave myself permission to watch just one more TV show. Or I ended up watching the analysts talk about the game after the game is done. So instead, I should set some limits. I should set an alarm on my phone 90 minutes before I know that I need to go to bed. If I have a 10:30 bedtime, I set my alarm for 9 p.m. And when that alarm goes off, no questions asked, I need to start that 90-minute nighttime routine. I need to set a rule that I am a person who does a 90-minute nighttime routine, because sleep is one of the biggest pillars to health and to wellness. And if my sleep suffers, then overall, my bigger why goal, it suffers. And the next day it compounds from there. If I have a terrible night of sleep, I can guarantee you the next morning I'm going to have less energy. I'm going to want to do less. I'm not going to be as prepared for the day as I thought I was going to be. All of it compounds from there. So overcoming avoidance, withdrawal, unintentionality. You could also think of these as doubling down, procrastinating, isolating, and numbing out. Which one of these do you do? First, you have to find awareness. That is the first key. Each one has strategies to use to help you and take action instead of continuing the cycle. We talked about some of those strategies here. For anyone listening who struggles to take action, consistent actions with things that align with your goals that you know you need to do. Is it in your business, your fitness, your health? Is it nutrition? Is it social? Is it your family? This is normal. This is human psychology. The brain, the body, the mind wants to do the easiest thing, but it doesn't have to be you. You can break the cycle. You can overcome. Find out which one of these signs that you use to avoid things that need to be done. Use some of the tools that we talked about today and do the thing that needs to be done. Just do the thing. Do it now. Do it now. Do it now. Paulo Coelho has a great quote. One day you will wake up and there won't be any more time to do the things that you've always wanted. Do it now. And that's it, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me on this Mindset Monday episode of the Livin the Dream podcast. Share the knowledge that you gain with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps a ton. If you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode with one takeaway that you learned, and make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at livingthedream_podcast and at coachdamian_SD, and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. Tell us how you have avoided procrastination and how you have done the thing that needs to be done. We want to know. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Livin the Dream team that we could discuss on future episodes. I'll be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.